Hello and welcome to Security. This is Cesar. So in the last couple of videos, I've been talking about how to connect to AWS private instances, and um, so far I've talked about using SSH agent forwarding. I talked about using a Windows client and also a Linux client. You can see those videos right here. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about another way to connect, in which you don't even have to handle SSH keys at all, and that is through the AWS Systems Manager. So if these videos are being helpful to you, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. So if you remember from the previous labs, this was the setup with a private subnet hosting a private instance and public subnet hosting a Bastion host. So it's basically the same setup this time, except we're not going to be using the Bastion host. So I've terminated the instances from the last video, and before I start creating instances again, I'm going to go to the Systems Manager dashboard and create a host management configuration. So I go to AWS Systems Manager and I click on Get Started with Systems Manager. So this opens up Quick Setup, and I'll just click on Create under Host Management. So here we can set the customization options for the configuration. We can select to update the SSM agent after every 2 weeks. So for SSM to work with an instance, the agent has to be installed on the instance. But if you're using the Amazon Linux 2 AMI, that comes with SSM pre-installed, so you don't need to install it anymore. We'll just leave these settings as default for now. So for our targets, we can select the entire organization, but we're just going to use the current account for this demo. Also leave it as current region and select all instances in our account. And we can create a configuration. And you can see the summary of what's going to be done when you create the configuration. Okay, so this takes a bit of time to finish setting up, and we can go start creating the EC2 instances while we wait. Okay, so over at the EC2 console, I just click on instances and click on launch instances. I'm going to create an instance and I'll call it private 1. Leave it as a default Amazon Linux 2 AMI. Leave the instance type as T2 micro. So for key pair, I'm going to select proceed without key pair. And for network settings, I'm going to put it in the security VPC which I created, and make sure it's in the private subnet of the VPC as well. I disable public IP addresses, and now I'm going to select a security group. So this security group I'm selecting basically has just one rule, allowing SSH access from this same security group, but you don't even really need any rule for SSM to work. Even if your security group doesn't allow any traffic, the SSM should still work as long as the correct IAM instance profile is attached to the instance. So what we're going to do here is attach an instance profile, and to do that, I'm going to show you the profile the role we're going to be attaching to the instance, and that is the SSM role for instance quick setup. So basically, this role allows the SSM agent on an instance to communicate with the AWS SSM service, and without it, we are unable to manage the instance. So here, I go back to the EC2 setup and select the Amazon SSM role for instance quick setup, and I'll leave the rest as default, and I can launch the instance. So now the instance is launched. I can click on view all instances to view. See it's pending, it's still being set up. While we wait, let me just show you the security group. So if you look at the security group on the inbound rule, you see it allows all traffic from the same security group. But again, SSM can still communicate with the agent whether or not the security group allows traffic. So back to the EC2 dashboard, we see the instance is still initializing. So we can go back to the SSM dashboard and we can see it's almost done setting up. Just one task pending now. And after a few more seconds, we can see that now it's done. So if we go to the inventory tab at the left hand side, now we can see our instance, the private one instance, has been added under corresponding managed instances. And it's our private instance. We can see some information about the instance as well, like the agent version, the IP address, the name, the platform type, and some other more information as well. So this is where we'll be able to see every instance that's being managed on our network by SSM. So for the first instance, I just demonstrated how to add an instance to be managed by SSM while you're creating the instance. So now I'm going to demonstrate how to add an already existing instance to your SSM inventory for managed instances. So what I'll do now is create another instance. Click on Launch Instance. Give it the name Private 2. And I'll leave every setting as the same as that I did for the other one, except for the fact that I will not attach the IAM role or the IAM instance profile to the instance. So I leave auto assign public IP still as disabled. For security group, I use the existing security group like before. Leave every other thing as default and launch the instance. So now I click on view instances. I say the instance is still pending, and I just give it some time to finish booting up. So once the instance is booted up, I select the instance, click on Actions, Security, and modify IAM role. And here I select the Amazon SSM role and update IAM role. So back at the SSM console, I can see right now it's still one instance being managed. So I'll refresh this and it's still showing one instance, but I'll give it some time, and after some time you see it automatically is added. So after some time you see the state will change here to pending, and after a few more seconds it goes to success for everything. Then that should let you know that there's been an update. So we can check the inventory to confirm, and here we see we now have two managed instances, the private 1 and private 2 instances. So to start the session, you select Session Manager from the sidebar and click on Start Session. And here you see the two instances that are being managed by SSM, and you can just select any of them you want to start a session with and click on Start Session. And just like that, you're into the instance. You can run commands and interact with the instance as you desire. Something to note is that the user account you're using must have permissions to view or to access its instances. If not, it's not going to work. This user I'm using has admin privileges, so that's why it's working for me. So here under the Sessions tab, we can see all currently running sessions. We can also start a session with a second instance by clicking on Start Session, select Private 2 and start the session. And we're into the second instance. You can also run commands. And here, if we come back to this Session Manager, we can see now another session has been added. So we have two sessions. So to terminate, we can just select it and terminate from here. And we can, if we go back to the tab, see the session has been terminated, we can close it. Or we can also terminate from just the session here at the top right corner. And the session will also be terminated. So we see we don't have any more active sessions. So another way you can connect to an EC2 instance through SSM is to select the EC2 instance from the EC2 console and click on Connect. Just select the Session Manager tab and simply click on Connect. But this has to be an instance has been already been managed by SSM. If not, this doesn't work. So another way you can also connect is using the AWS CLI, but there's two requirements for that. You need to have AWS CLI configured, and you also need to install the AWS SSM plugin. So I already have the AWS CLI installed and configured. If you need help doing that, here's a link where you can learn how to do it. So now I'm just going to install the SSM plugin. So I just open up Google, search install SSM plugin on Windows, since I'm using a Windows host. Select this link and copy this URL and paste in the browser. So I paste the URL in the browser to download the install file, and I open up the install file, agree to the terms, and just install. So this takes a few seconds. Okay, so it's completely installed, and there's a way you can verify if it's installed. So if you come down the page, see where it says verify the Session Manager plugin installation. All you have to do is run this command. So I copy the command, I bring up a terminal on my PC and run it. And you can see the Session Manager plugin was installed successfully. So to connect using the CLI, I need the ID of the instance I want to connect to. So I can return to the EC2 console to copy it. And now I just block the command prompt on my PC and run the command AWS SSM start session, and I specify the target as the ID of the instance. And just like that, we are successfully in the instance and we can interact with it. So this is connecting now completely over the internet, even when the instance is in a private subnet. Of course, using the SSM service. So we can also test the connection to the second instance. Go copy the instance ID, paste it into the terminal, and we are successfully connected to the second instance as well. So whether through the SSM console or through the CLI, we can see all the connections that are being connected, that have been made to the instances here in the Systems Manager console, and we can manage them from here as well. So to terminate the session, we can either terminate it from here in the command prompt, and we see that one session has been removed, or we can also from the SSM console select the connection, click on terminate, and terminate. So you can terminate all the sessions for now and end the lab. So in this video, I've demonstrated how to set up host management with AWS SSM to enable you connect to private instances, either using the console or using the AWS CLI. Again, if you're finding this content helpful and interesting, please like and subscribe. So we're done with the lab and we can terminate all the resources. To do that, I terminate all the EC2 instances to make sure I don't get charged. Then I can go to the SSM console and delete the management configuration as well. So you first of all need to remove all OUs and regions. That will be done first. Have to give it some time. And once that is done, you can select the configuration again, and now you can delete it. So you just type delete in the box and confirm. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.